Once again, we're back. We're talking about character, right? Building character, building up athletes from the inside out. And what I want to do right now is I want to talk about the A word, adversity, because you hear it all the time in sports. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'm sorry for y'all who are listening who are not Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but that is the only correct answer when it comes to the National Football League.
Go Niners.
You know what I'm saying? But Mike Tomlin, man, I got a chance to meet Mike T, man, and go to camp and spend time with their staff there, chat with a mutual friend of ours, Chad Johnson, when Chad was there, and that was great, man. And one of the things that he's been quoted as saying is, he goes, "We need adversity during the season. We need it early during the season. And if there is no adversity early during the season, I will create it." That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, "I will create it."
Yep.
And when you start looking at adversity, what is adversity? It's difficulties, misfortune. That's what it is.
Yep.
When you boil it down to its basal constituents, adversity is difficulties and misfortune, right? Oh, I went through this thing. Was it difficult? Yeah. Was it unfortunate? Yeah. Well, it's probably adversity. And both of us, you and I, we can sit here and talk about for days about adversity. And I'll start off with a story of mine that was a turning point in my career, and then I'm going to give you the mic. I know that when you start looking at adversity, one of the reasons why we need to overcome adversity is because it does help to build that spiritual, that emotional, mental character and fortitude. Even the Bible, I think it was Paul, he says that endure hardness as a good soldier in the Lord, right? The Bible is filled with verses on adversity, right?
Absolutely.
You are more than a conqueror through him that loved you, right? Be not afraid. That term alone, be not afraid, is said over 300. I think it's 365 times in the Bible, right? In this world you will have trials and tribulations, but be not afraid because I have already overcome the world, right? And so it's just like, man, you start listening to this, adversity's coming, bro. For y'all who are listening, if you have not faced adversity, congratulations, because it's coming soon. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I remember junior year, I walked on at Arizona State University, and that was always my dream, to play ball ASU, bro. Like, I remember it was in my mind. I was like, I'm playing, walked on, ended up making the traveling team my freshman year, versus University of Oregon. We went out there and played. My second year, my sophomore year, I started toward the end of the season, versus, some big time players, some Heisman winners, and hopefuls, Joey Harrington, Carson Palmer. And I remember our coaching staff got fired. And so here I am, I played good towards the end of my sophomore year. Junior year came, and I'm going to fast forward it to the point where my position coach told me, "Hey man, you've had a great spring, you've come a long way, we're putting you on scholarship." I was like this. Like, that was one of the most happiest moments of my life, bro. Like I'm gonna spend my last 2 years on scholarship in my hometown university, right, Arizona State. And I remember calling my parents. I called some mentors. Your pops. You know what I mean? Like I was over the moon, bro. And then you fast forward it to the summertime, or to, we're getting ready to go back to school now. Now we're sitting here in July, August, right? And I'm like, when's that scholarship kicking in, dog?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We got. Hey,
Y'all remember what y'all said?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we got classes we got to pay for. I'm getting letters. You know what I mean? Are you going to the school anymore? Because I'm like, yo, ain't I on scholarship? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm sitting here trying to figure out what's really good.
Yeah.
And then I start doing some fact finding, and I'm like, hey man, and I started, reaching out to the people that, the powers that be, and I'm like, aren't I on scholarship?
Right.
And they're like, nah, you're going to have to talk to the coach about that, man. I'm like, what? And so I started doing some fact finding, and they hit me with some BS, some bull jive, talking about we're not putting you on scholarship because you didn't come to all the summer workouts.
The voluntary workout.
So I'm like, okay, so you guys understand that That was the excuse that they gave me.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys understand that, like, you're not paying me money, so I have to work
Right.
to put gas in my car and to put food in my mouth.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Like, I have to work. So of course I wasn't at all the workouts. You know what I'm saying? And it started becoming one thing to a next thing and to a next thing. And then I remember, man, I just remember being so hot, man, at the coaching staff. I said, man, y'all lied to me. I said, you guys lied to me. You know, and I was so mad, dude. I was so mad, and I used to have a bad temper, like it was ugly.
Hey, man, rightfully so, man.
And so I took my stuff out of the car, out of the locker. I was just like, man, forget this. You know what I'm saying? And I disappeared for a couple days, and they were calling me up. Hey, man, hey Joe, hey, where are you at, Joe? You know, and so I had to come back and I had to apologize to my teammates and to the coaching staff. And I remember my teammates were cool. They were like, man, whatever, man, get on back here, you know. But I remember my coaching staff made that year a living hell for me. And it jacked me up as a person. It jacked me up as a player. My identity, which was wrong of me, was in football. That was where my identity was. I wasn't going to class. I was failing out of classes. You know, I was in a dark place, and there were some people. Your dad was one of them. You know, my parents. You know, my mentors that were around me and that helped pull me out of there. You know, and I had to overcome it. You know, and God redeemed all of that when I transferred to NAU for my last year, and God redeemed everything.
Wow.
And so when we start talking about adversity, you know, I want you to share, like, you know, your take on it. But one thing some takeaways I want to give people is that when it comes to adversity, you have to go through it.
Yep.
The only way out is through.
Yep.
The only way out is through. You can't go around
Yes.
it. You can't shuck and jive. You can't, you know, jump over. Like, no, you got to go
Yes.
through it. You got to press into it. You got to press into that, man.
Yes.
Endure hardness, man. You got to go through it because it builds resolve, character like you ain't never seen before.
Absolutely.
And it bears fruit. And so I just want you to share, man. Like,
Yeah. No, man, before I even go into, because mine happened my junior year, my eye-opening moment, my Kairos moment was my junior year. But before going into that, yes, like I agree. Like adversity is content for your learning. Like it's content for what you're going to continue to see in life. So we got to be people that want to run towards adversity. Once adversity hits, we got to be like, whew, let's go. Just like a game's about to get going, or we got a turnover. We get to go back in the game. We get to go play. This is another opportunity to get better. God's trying to get me to another place. My dad's preached a sermon, and his theme was, we got to be storm chasers. We can't be running from the storm. We got to be like Peter. Hop out the boat. Let's go walk into the storm, baby. You know? And ultimately, that's where our blessing lies. So my story happens my junior year. My uncle passes away. I get told right after practice. Luckily, they told me after practice. I broke down a little bit. Ended up being able to, or they had the funeral the next week. I had to miss a couple practices, but I went to the funeral, still made the game. The big piece of that is my staff didn't like the idea of me leaving, having to go and see my grandpa, but they don't understand how big my family is, how much I care. You know, we're a close family, very tight knit, and this was tough on my dad. There was no chance I wasn't going to leave or go be with him. And also, they told me they would honor my it's part of my scholarship that they, you know, accommodate for these things. And so we held them accountable to that. And in the back of our head, we could see that they weren't feeling that. You know, our staff, the admin, whatever. But we did it anyway. Got back, played in the game, had a decent game. You know, penalized me a little bit. I didn't play the first quarter or whatever, but still got in there. We won the game. It was still good showing. The next week, right, could still kind of feel that they were being a little weird. My staff was being weird, but I didn't pay no mind to it, right? We actually go that next week. We're going to Sacramento, and that's where my uncle was from, and a lot of my family was coming to watch me at the game, knowing that I'm gonna be there. Family traveled up. Parents came from Arizona. My whole Sac family's there, right?
So just for context for those listening, you're playing college ball at the University of Montana.
Yes.
Your uncle's from Sacramento.
Yep.
The funeral was in Arizona, or was it?
The funeral was actually in Sacramento.
In Sacramento. Okay, so the funeral was in Sacramento. You came. I don't know if you came to Arizona first or you went to Sac first, but nonetheless, now it's full circle. The next week, so you had just gone to the funeral, did your thing.
Yep.
You're back at practice. People acting weird. Now you're back in Sacramento, where there's family, there's friends coming to watch you potentially play.
Yep. And I'd been playing, starting. I'd been the guy, right? So my week, those few days I was there for the funeral, I'm building up. Hey, I'm coming out here in 2 weeks. So, come to the game. I get there. I would say about maybe 30 minutes before the game, coach pulls me aside, tells me I'm not playing. Never's done that to anybody, right? Not a starter, at least. Tells me I'm not playing. No reasons why, no nothing. And
that's just weird in itself.
In itself.
Like no coach does that.
No. You have that conversation. You at least have an idea during the week.
Yeah.
And so I don't play. My dad pulls me aside. I had nothing for him, Dad. I have no clue what's going on, right? My dad's upset. He gives me a game plan. He's like, you need to go meet with your coaches. Luckily, my dad's been through this. Like you said, he kind of went through some different things, help you through your adversity. And he kind of knew exactly what to do. He gave me a step-by-step. You're going to meet with your coaches. They're going to give you some BS, bull jive. And when they give you that, ask them what you need to do to get back on the field, and you do it to the best of your ability, right? And he told me, no longer, you ain't the nice guy no more. They obviously disrespecting you, so you go in there and it's all about business, right? And it's funny that he gave me this feedback, because after I did this and I executed, I got my spot back, I did all that, and it was all peachy after that. My senior year is what it was. I was, the number one corner after that, and but one thing that I learned from it, I had to go through this. No matter how much I thought they were doing me dirty,
you had to go through
I had to go through this. And my dad had to reset how I needed to go about my business.
Yeah.
You're too happy. You're so happy that you're unaware of what's going on.
Yeah. This is him talking to you, saying that you gotta put the hard hat on because you're going through some stuff.
Yep. Put the tunnel vision. And if they made it about practice. They said it was my practice.
Yeah.
There was something about my practice habits, right? And at the time, I'd actually had a red jersey on, which signified you were injured. I'd actually tore my shoulder, but I was going to play through it instead of getting surgery. And so they weren't honoring that. Practice was a little bit lighter for me, and they made it so. Put me in a red jersey and all that, right? They tried to issue me the jersey every practice. I said, nope, give me my normal jersey. I had a brace I was playing with. I took the brace off. I felt like they weren't honoring it. They didn't care, right? And I started playing like a madman in practice. Just attacking my craft like it was the game. And they had no choice but to respect me. And from then on, I had that content. Because if I didn't go through that adversity, complete it, and then see the fruits of my labor, I wouldn't see adversity the way I see it now. Yeah. I would have never had the success that I had. So now that I'm going through it, and now whenever I run through adversity, or I run through somebody who doesn't like me, or a kid, now I'm coaching a kid who may not like me, a parent that has this perception around me, I don't panic. I just go through it.
Yeah. It's powerful what you said, and we'll close on this one because that story was powerful. You talked about your dad, being a storm chaser. When you have adversity, you mentioned and running to it. You and I both played corner, and I was coached by one of the best, man, Phil Snow. And one of the things that he said, he goes, anytime you're in man coverage and you feel a receiver pushing into you, he said, always fight pressure with pressure. Because when a receiver is running his route and he's leaning into you, he's trying to do what?
Go the other way.
He's trying to go the other way. So when he leans in, you actually lean towards because he's going to take you to the route.
Yes.
He's going to take you to that pot of gold where you can make a tremendous play. You can get a pick six, a PBU, or for sure tackle, or just a straight up, incompletion. You know what I mean? Like whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that it's a powerful word picture for us, that are listening to this, going through this course, that when you fight adversity, you are going to find that pot of gold when you lean in.
Yes.
You never get it if you run away.
Yep.
You never get it if you run
Never.
away.
Never.
So, man, appreciate that, man. That was powerful.
Yep. Storm chaser.
Boom.